kind enough this morning, and looking forward to this conversation. Gary Washburn, who's a national NBA writer over at the Boston Globe, kind enough to stop by here with us on Off the Bench on this Tuesday morning. Gary, good morning. How are you, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. We got to start with the obvious here, man. What's it like being at the Boston Globe and being a Rams fan?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's been a strange 3 years. I mean, I never thought the Rams would move back to L.A. They did. Then they were terrible that first year. And then suddenly they were decent last year. Lost to the Falcons in the playoffs. And this year, they somehow pull out that game against the Saints. With that good, clean football play.
Easy, Gary.
I know who I'm talking to.
I know, man. I know.
So,
Tell me this, Gary. Were you pulling harder for the hometown team or the hometown officials? I mean, I'm looking at this officiating crew. Vinovich is from Newport Beach. Turner from Lakewood, California. Cavaletto from Santa Barbara. I'm just messing with you, Gary. It's just been tough.
Funny,
it's been tough.
It's funny. The top story in L.A. right now is Anthony Davis. The Rams win the Super Bowl, and everybody's sort of like blah. Or everybody's asking, are the Dodgers going to sign Bryce Harper? So, even though it should be a football crazed town, and it should be, a great atmosphere in LA because the Rams have reached the Super Bowl, it's still like the third or fourth story in town. So it's interesting. I mean, it's hard to be a Rams fan because growing up, no one locally liked the Rams. Like, everyone liked other teams. So I think it's still pretty much the same. I mean, it's an interesting – L.A. is, as you guys know, is an interesting sports market in many ways.
So then let's talk about what the number one story nationally has been the last few days. That is Anthony Davis finally requesting the trade from New Orleans. And we were discussing this morning, like, okay, should the Pelicans wait? And the general consensus seems to be yes, because Boston has the war chest. Can you give us a realistic idea of like packages that the Celtics are willing to offer post July 1st for Davis?
Well, it all depends on what the Pelicans are asking for. And if I'm the Pelicans, if I'm Dale Demps, the general manager, I'm asking for the world. I'm getting the absolute best package because what you want to do if you're Dale Demps is use this trade to replenish your franchise and to not miss a step. Right now, the Pelicans are, the ninth best team in the West with Anthony Davis. So you're thinking to yourself, well, let's make a trade to where we move up a notch or two because we get so much talent in return, even though we're missing and we're losing one of the best players in the league. We get 3-4 guys who can make up for that. So if I'm Boston, they're obviously going to have to give up a guy like Jason Tatum, a 20-year-old shooting guard who, has got all-star potentials in his second year. If I'm the Pelicans, I'm asking for him. I'm asking for Jaylen Brown, their third-year forward. Those are the two most marketable guys they have. If you want to ask for Robert Williams, the kid from Vivian, Louisiana,
right.
To throw in a Texas A&M guy, sort of a local because I know Vivian's not all that close, but it's in the state. You could maybe ask him as a throw-in, as a guy who can, help a big man down the road. And then you ask, the Celtics have, several draft picks at their disposal. First, they have the Memphis first-round pick, the Clippers first-round pick, their own first-round pick, Sacramento's first-round pick. You ask for 3 of those. So essentially, you get maybe 6 guys back.
Hey.
And if 3 draft picks, 3 players, and you keep it moving, and you try to build around that, and you build around Drew Holiday, and you try to, maybe re-sign Julius Randle for the long term, and go from there.
Gary, from New Orleans' point of view, Boston has the most attractive to offer, correct? After that, who comes into play? Is it just New York and L.A., or are there other teams?
I would just say just New York and L.A. because you got to essentially look at the teams that have spent the last few years. Because if you're the Pelicans, you want picks as well as players.
Yes.
Picks valuable commodity here. You want picks just like you want players. So the Knicks have spent, years putting together draft picks. The Lakers have, stocked picks because they've been bad for the last 5 years. So they've got the Kuzmas, the Brandon Ingrams, the Lonzo Balls. So if you are those teams, those are what the Pelicans want, because you're not going to get a player for player deal for Anthony Davis. It's not going to happen, right? You're not going to get equal talent value. So you've got to get guys that you can, a couple of young guys that could be potentially impact players, but also players you can choose and you can select in the draft. And that's what I think the Pelicans will want. They want to make a decision on who do we want here. And I think that's important as opposed to just players. Picks are, I think, the key to this deal.
What's been the Boston reaction to the Anthony Davis news? Does it seem like the fan base is just kind of do they view it as a foregone conclusion that Davis ends up in Celtic green?
They don't. I think fans are excited because they see his potential and they see how good he is and they see that he's one of the top 5 players in the league, and he had a 44-point game against the Celtics. I mean, he has, played some of his best games in Boston. And so you look at that and you say to yourself, wow, you pair him with Kyrie Irving, and now we can play with the Warriors. And I think that's what I think is what Celtics fans are looking at as opposed to anything else, because they don't know a lot about him. I mean, Anthony doesn't make a lot of headlines. He has a couple of ads, but he's not a vocal kid. He just does his job. I think the only detractor against him is he's not always healthy. He's had injury issues over the years, but this is a guy who could put Boston over the top. The Celtics are looking for that person to make them a championship caliber team, and they just saw the Warriors the other night, that all-star team basically, and they're saying to themselves, I don't know if we have enough guys as we are right now to compete with the Warriors in a 7-game series. Anthony Davis gives us that chance.
And one of the guys, Gary, who struggled the other night was Gordon Hayward. What is kind of his value currently to the Celtics, and does he factor into these Davis trade talks?
Well, of course. I mean, if you're going to trade for Davis, the Celtics would love for the Pelicans to want Gordon Hayward. I wouldn't, because he hasn't proven that he can consistently – he's even close to the level he was when he was an all-star a few years ago. He's taken a while to come back from his leg injury. I think people thought that it would be faster, but it's not. It could be a full year. We might not see the best of Gordon Hayward until 2019-20, but he's on a max deal. And so that could hurt the Celtics in terms of contract negotiations with anyone, let alone Anthony Davis, because they've got a $30 million bill on their tab at this point, because that's how he's their highest paid player. He makes more than Kyrie Irving, and right now he's averaging 10 points a game, and he's recently he's 1 for 17 for his last 17 from the 3-point line. He scored 2 points last night, and in a win, he scored 2 points the night before against the Warriors. So he is struggling. So that could be an albatross in terms of any kind of deal. If I'm the Pelicans, no way I ask for that, because it's not an expiring deal. It's not like it comes off the books in a year. So, but the Celtics, of course, would love if they could throw him into a deal for Anthony Davis. But I don't see Dale Demps. That would cost Dale Demps his job.
Please.
I think losing Davis should cost Dale Demps his job, as well as 9 years at the helm with a sub-500 record by 80 games.
7 first-round draft picks he's dealt away, Gary.
In a row. We're talking to Gary Washburn, NBA writer for the Boston Globe. Gary, what's the current feeling on Kyrie re-signing?
I mean, I think that there's a pretty positive feeling. I think, is he happy? I think he is. I think it's been a kind of a difficult season in terms of him dealing with the younger players and being a leader. But I don't see any major reason that he would bail unless, hey, he's a kid from New Jersey. The Knicks and the Nets are both going to go after him. They're not going to listen to what he said in the preseason about promising to re-sign in Boston. They're going to go after him.
Yeah.
Because they're going to sell him on being the next superstar at the Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center if you're in Brooklyn, and being the next New York superstar. But not everybody's going to be Derek Jeter. Like that whole, Carmelo tried it. There's been plenty of athletes who try to take over New York, and there's only one Derek Jeter. Jeter was the only one who pretty much did it. So I think if you're Kyrie and you're like, well, do I want to win 45 games to the Knicks, or do I want to compete for championships and stay in Boston? I think he stays in Boston. Now, if they were happy to get Anthony Davis, then I think that encourages him to stay in Boston.
Yeah.
With this current crew, I think that he would want to stay. But from the Pelicans, I raid the Lakers for every asset they have, and I make this deal now. Do not want Davis playing 3 more months. If you think the best deal is Boston, and the Celtics are giving you kind of a wink and the two-gun salute of, hey, we'll talk to you July 1st. I guess you could wait, but I make the best deal now. I get Davis the heck out of there and just start fresh with a bunch of young guys, excite the fan base a little bit, and then you have a whole summer with them, and next year you try to do some real things.
Gary Washburn, keep up with his news and information at G Washburn Globe. He's the national NBA writer for the Boston Globe. Kind enough to drop some knowledge on us here this morning for a couple of minutes. Thanks, Gary.